Welcome back, councillors. We are currently on page 36, just moving through into financial headroom. The recommendation there is that these be noted by the Chief Executive, and I'm just going to run through them in case there's any change. So any comments or discussion on the financial headroom? Right, if I move to the next item, the Woodville Campground key deposit fee. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Your Worship, and thanks to the team for providing the background information as to why that deposit was so high. It makes total sense, so I can completely understand that, and not a motion or anything, probably more of a request for staff just to give some consideration to perhaps changing the way that we do things with that. So, simple solution, and there might be more to it. So this might be why it hasn't been looked at, but do a keypad combination. So then we're not having to pay locksmiths to come out and pay $150 each time a key's lost. Not proposing we remove it from fees and charges, because until that happens, I think we do need to collect a deposit. But yeah, just hoping we can look at perhaps finding a different way which would satisfy one of the main submission points from one of our community committees, Positively Woodville.
Thanks, Councillor Gilmore. I think that's a good suggestion. Discussion. The fees and charges. I guess the only comment I'd make there is one submitter did talk about the district licensing charges, if any consideration was given to that, or whether we look to do that at some point in the future. So it is something that I have raised before, because some of those costs don't. Some of those charges don't meet. They wouldn't be full cost recovery, especially around special licenses. But when it's been discussed before, actually it makes it prohibitive in applying for one of those from small, say the Makariri Dog Trial Club, for an example. Not that I know that we've applied for one. Shouldn't use that, but yeah. So if everyone's comfortable with the comments there, certainly further discussion on that. Okay. Right. Impact evaluation increase on rates. Support for owners of earthquake-prone buildings. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to acknowledge that the person who submitted on this was trying to propose a positive way to influence how, for instance, the Dannyvirk Main Street may look like in 15, 20 years' time. But I do want to acknowledge the efforts that the staff have gone to come up with other ways that could possibly happen, rather than the direct suggestion that the submitter had. So very appreciative of the thinking outside the square, and within our current processes, there may be ways to help this one out.
Thank you, Councillor Wards. Councillor Johns.
Tracy. Yeah, I, like you, I thought good on them for trying to think of a positive way around the problem, but I have a feeling that government's going to change the rules on earthquake strengthening buildings, and I would perhaps not encourage, but suggest to those owners just to hold fire for a while until we get some direction from central government. It may not be necessary to do it in due course, who knows?
Any further thoughts around that? And I think that in writing back to submitters, certainly an offer, I think I made on the day to work with them and the chamber around what positive changes might look like. I think this government's very focused on bringing solutions to the table. So if we can do that from a rural community, then it's a good thing. Okay. As far as direction, Raj, do you want any preference on those, or they'll naturally come through this, or we ourselves will wait to see what those changes are in a few months? Yeah. Right. Development of policies for sun protection, smoke-free, vape-free, and alcohol policies.
I feel it right down the bridge.
Any conflicts of
I
interest?
think we need to division vote on this matrix.
So, any thoughts there, councillors, noting that there is no budget attached to this? I did query the last comment, which says council currently has a smoke-free policy relating to council's property where staff work from. My understanding is that is parks and sports grounds as opposed to the council property. Raj, you might be able to clarify that for me.
Sorry, can you say that again,
Just the development of policies for sun protection, smoke-free, vape-free, and alcohol policies. The bottom line says council currently has a smoke-free policy relating to council's property where staff work from. My understanding was that was council buildings as part of indoors, but our sports grounds and our parks as opposed to so it's the whole property. Interesting.
Well, I need to confirm that. I do know for councils. Can I come back? They'll come back to. I need to check with Angela. Come back to you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Tracy, most, if you invoke that, you stand outside the gate and huff and blow your lungs out. Not inside a shed in the corner of the property.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. You can just come back and confirm that. That would be great. Councillor Sutherland.
Mayor Tracy, just on a serious note, just really love, we haven't got a local alcohol policy or a LAP here in Tararua, and the licensing committee, which I'm part of, it's a council decision, but we've not sponsored that and haven't worried about it. We thought we'd be more flexible. But of recent times, I've had a few concerns because of there's been concerns nationwide about the proliferation of licenses and the ways that some groups of people are getting around those constraints. But might be time to have another discussion. But we do not have a budget, and there is the risk of appeal and things to that. So it's a process that has a cost to it. But I think it's probably time we had a conversation around the licensing committee and the council tables, just in the next whatever period of time. That's my personal view, but we do a meeting tomorrow in the licensing committee, so it might be worth just.
Thank you.
Is the drinks trolley coming out after the meeting?
No, slash and burn. Right. Okay, so councillors are happy with that. Pahia to Town Bridge. One of the comments that I've written down here, and I wasn't sure, that is one of the areas within our Waka Kotahi funding that was significantly cut. So just noting that, councillors. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much, Mayor Tracy. Yeah, I was just a couple of questions to staff, if that's okay. I was first just wanting to double check the ownership of that bridge. Is that a council asset? Yeah. Second question, if that's okay. Do we have anything currently in the budget, just in our general depreciation, for maintenance work that might just very, very, very nicely be able to coincide with what the submitter has requested?
I see. So at the moment, that section of road's under the control of Wakakatahi, while the new roads are being built. Until it comes back to us, the responsibility for that bridge isn't on us at all. So even the cleaning part of it isn't something we could affect at this stage. We could certainly lobby them to give it a clean, and that's what we'll take from this. That's it.
I would sincerely suggest that councillors go back to their relative committees and community groups and lodge some CRMs with Waka Kotahi as a serious issue. Councillor Gilmore.
Thanks very much. I think that's a great suggestion, and I just wonder if we, as council, could also put in a request noting that at the moment we can't do it ourselves and we can't affect it, but putting in a nice request to them asking if they would be willing to, particularly to be, to be meeting an important timeline.
Thank
In addition to that, Councillor Scott, the last time I filed a CRM about the bridge, the white railings were painted within 2 weeks. So that was pretty good. So yeah, it's worth doing. I'll get Explore Pie to do it.
you. That'd be great. Okay, Dennyburg wastewater pond boundary safety. We acknowledge that one. The only other feedback that I'd give is that when we did have the consultation with the kaumatua at Ngāti Kahanunu, they did make comment around the look of that fencing. Yeah, it's pretty significant. They felt it looked like prison. A little bit untoward. So, and that was made a couple of times.
To respond to that, so that is built to code, industry standard practice, and that breached recently. So that's still, even that's not enough to keep people who want to be in there out.
Thank you. Right, subdivision rules. No comments on that. Solid waste. The installation of stock underpasses. Noting that submission, I also note that we do have a policy in place around road crossings that we don't enforce. So, and given the roading damage that is caused on some of those stock underpasses, it is quite whilst it's time consuming for the farmer, a sweep does help, because actually when those roads are replaced or repaired, that cost is picked up by all ratepayers. Councillor Wards.
Thank you for that, Ben Tracy. So that implies that we actually do have a bylaw or a policy that if we were to enforce, dairy farmers are required to do this.
Yeah, and there is, I think the policy, and maybe this needs a bit of a relook, but there is hours of which you can do that. Now, it's during the hours of daylight. Some of them have flashing lights, but very few keep it clean.
So, what could be proposed to that submitter? Would that be a CRM to regulatory or?
If council does get a CRM or a complaint, then that can initiate a call and some follow-up action, because there are some within the district that actually have just stretched the boundaries of acceptance.
Pretty sure I know who
The fluoridation of the Dennyburg water supply.
St John.
Oh, sorry. Advocacy for more funding for Hata Hone St John Ambulance Service. Happy to do that if councillors want to have that conversation. And I'm just trying to think, that submitted, there was conversation the other day just around, which meeting was I at, around the Pahia tour. Yeah. Which meeting? It was, yes, true, that came up there. So happy to follow that up, councillors. Okay. Fluoridation of the Dennyberg water supply. Raj, did you wish to go back to your sector allocation and the underfunding of the transportation plan, and then we'll go through next steps timeline and your motion? Thanks.
I guess I'll tackle the easier one first. Because the NLTP funding resolution is that we'll go with option one, which is the indicative rates given by Waka Kotahi, which is lower than what we went out to consult with. So I guess the question is that in terms, I remember we do the draft, we had an increase in the transportation budget. And when we did the rate smoothing, we cut road investigation. So now that the transportation rates requirement has dropped, if I refer you to I talked about that in para 6.6.4, which is 400, page 18. It's only 416 for year one. We're talking about year one as a focus. Two options. One is we do that and leave the unfunding, so we talk about unfunding as it is, or we reduce the unfunding. That means to say that, let's say the rates increase is at 10%, we now have a less rate requirement for transportation. We also then correspondingly increase the underfunding, reduce the underfunding eroding depreciation, so the rates increase will still be 10%. That means we don't bank against the better word, that saving. So there's two options. One is we bank it, or we don't bank it. That means we reduce the underfunding. Because one of the rationale, I guess, when you do rate smoothing, you didn't want to go 6 years, you want to go 3 years. Part of the rationale was the risk associated with unfunding. So just want to say that staff, Sarah can jump in. Our proposal, in a sense, is to do that, so that we reduce the underfunding that we're doing in the transportation area, underfunding or depreciation that we're doing for transportation. Take your direction or any questions or discussions.
Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for that, Raj, because I remember that was a concern expressed by Federated Farmers, wasn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, that would have my support that we don't do smoke and mirrors and bank it, as you're saying, that what happens, happens. Thank you.
So just to confirm, then that means that, let's say, $416,000 reduction in voting race requirement. We then correspondingly, if everything else, Sarah will do her magic in numbers, everything else remains the same. That means we reduce our unfunding by the same amount. So we keep it neutral. That's what we say. That will help, because remember, one of the impact of the unfunding is that we needed to loan because of the deficits in the other reserves. So this will reduce. Cool. Okay. Right. The second one, which is the rates increase. On page 20, if you have a copy of your consultation document, on page 21, at the top, we have the rates increase. So given we've gone through, it got resolution from council regards to what we're doing in the items that we consulted and other items. Staff are going to go away and pull together, I guess, the numbers. So the question is very simplistic, is that the rates increase? So we chose option 2. Again, we chose option 2, which is 3 years. So is that the rates increase that I'm working towards. So when I come back to you, or Sarah and I come back to you, the team comes back to you with a final LTP, that's what you're looking for in terms of rates increase.
What page are you on the top?
21. It's the agenda.
You don't really
It's not on the.
I wasn't on the agenda.
I tried, team, I tried.
He's seeking direction now, though. Now we've made a decision.
Yes, direction. That we know what to do.
But doesn't everyone?
I don't know, next week.
Consulted on.
Yeah. So, I'll just back up the bus and try and help me to understand. So now we've chosen 3-year smoothing. What you're asking us is that the exact figure you want us to smooth to? And yet, given some of the other decisions we've made today, the implications are that there might not be what we might be looking at. Is this what I'm saying here? Yeah.
Remember, for example, yes, we have made savings. So I asked talk about roading first. We're not banking it neutral, so put that aside. Sorry, Tracy. For example, when you're looking at swimming pool, I think it is as per the LTP. Remissions, we're putting it back in, so that's a cost onto us. What else did we decide today that's increasing for us?
So contiguous, right?
So there may be, and also, so there may be, there are increases. But you also have a resolution that the chief secretary is going to look at savings in year one following year two. So there would be ins and outs. So what is the target, or what if a better word, the rates increase that the team is going to work towards? And I'm not saying they're going to come back to you and nail top and now, but if the intention is that that's the rates increase that you went out with, you want us to work towards achieving that rates increase. However, if let's say we can't, then that's a discussion we got to have with you, either through a process or when we bring back to the final. I prefer to a process. We got to find a workshop in between now to the final. If let's say we are unable to hit that budget, so we can come back and tell you what's the rate increase going to be. The other thing that we could do, yeah. So I think there's many tools that we could use in the toolkit in regards to arriving at that. So I just want a direction, and I think that gives us a clear direction. So this is what we consulted the community on. That's what we're trying to achieve. If we can't achieve that, I think very early in the piece, we need to signal.
Your Worship. Sorry, Raj. I'm just maybe wondering if we just reconsider the process in terms of what we're actually workshopping after this meeting, because we'll have resolutions from here, and then what, obviously it'll be a public workshop again, and I'm just a bit concerned about the process of what we're actually workshopping, or are we informing, or just not 100%. That would have audited by then as well. So it's a real tricky sort of part of the process. What I propose is that I think Raj is right to, it's a bit of a hit and miss to find out where we land, but after this we'll land somewhere. I do have direction provided to me, and I will, over the next 2 days, work with the team to see what rabbit we can pull out of the hat, and then that's probably what we proceed with. I've already had some thoughts around some stuff that we can do, but I just need to get my head around that, and I can report back to council through other means on my thoughts and where we're heading. I think rather than having a workshop.
I think very much, Mayor Tracy. The Chief Executive has said. I think for direction, Raj, this is my personal view of it's keeping as close as possible to this, but bearing in mind the implications of the decision we've made. Where it comes to, do we need to have a discussion about that? I think the right process for that, if it's required, is calling an extraordinary meeting. And hopefully that is not required because we've set the direction. We know that decisions we've made in this room will have implications, but
Councillor Gill, I don't think we have time to call an extraordinary meeting. Yeah, but the Chief Executive will keep us informed. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I think we've got 2 days to prepare the document. Pretty much that will go to order, sent to designers, sent to a range of other areas. So we've got limited amount of time to make real, to renegotiate, I guess, a lot of this stuff. So I think we'll crack on with it, but I will keep you informed of that resolution in terms of what we're doing.
Councillor Wards.
Thank you, Tracy. It would have been my view that the rate smoothing came out of a way of modelling once you put all the figures in. And if that same process is applied to what the new figures will look like, then it's the process that we need to repeat. The principle behind us consulting, the feedback said, try and make it a little bit easier for us over 3 years rather than just the one. And if that same process is applied to a slightly different figures, that's what I thought we would be endorsing. But I hear what you're saying, Brian. The direction is follow the same way you did, knowing that we as council have asked you to probably put more figures in those.
Sutherland.
Thank you, Tracy. Sharon was on the same line as myself. We started this process knowing the decisions would cause an upward swing in rates needed, and that's what's happened, I think. We possibly there was a larger number looking at 6 years rate smoothing actually, but I think I'm inclined to see where this lies, and that's an area it might require smoothing to get us back to where we want to be. That's so I know where Sharon was coming from, and I think the same way. That's just without saying it any more about that.
Comfortable with that? Comments? Okay. Okay. Do you want to run through the next steps on the timeline with the audit?
To Your Worship, yeah, page 40, outline the table. So we've got a very tight timeline in order to meet the 31st July adoption. Audits coming in on, so the intention for us is, as Brian pointed out, today, tomorrow and Friday for us to have all the changes done and have all documents ready for the auditors as they walk in on Monday. Then the audit starts. Critical part for us, part of the process is I guess, walking through quite clearly with the auditors the decision made today and what the implications are for the LTP and how they are reflected in the LTP document. Auditors also, as part of the LTP, they will look at the process. They will go through process that we've gone through in terms of creating the LTP doc. Because remember, they have not audited the CD. So back and look at the whole consultation, how we pull together the CD document, how we consult the decisions that we made post-consultation. The hot review will be the critical element for us, though we've given ourselves 1 week. That's when we've got 2 sets of hot reviews taking place. It's going to highlight the risk in that space, meaning there's 1 hot review done by Auditor General that looks across the document across the whole New Zealand. The second part of it is called the opinion review. And the audit opinion, that's another process that they go through in terms of rigor. We are working very closely with Debbie in the space so we can turn things around quite quickly. The important thing for us, I guess, is one is having the documents all done, ready for them on day one. Second is working and engaging with them as they see issues, we are flagging and resolving it or trying to address that as it goes. Then preparing the final audit report and having the opinions ready. Freddie, Debbie did flag quite early in the piece a risk to us that they may not have the final audit opinion to us at the ARC. She will be here to talk to the committee if that's not the case, but she's given assurance that if that's not the case, we definitely will have it when council adopts on the 31st. So she's just flagging quite early to us in the piece, given that there's no yeah in the whole process quite tight. But Sarah and Cole and myself are working closely with Debbie.
And just another reminder, and we did share this after our meeting with the auditor, NZ and the Deputy General audit. If we miss our dates, they will not be able to complete the audit. Therefore, there will not be an LTP complete on time. Even with the flexibility of the legislation that could push it out to September, they would not be able to get here in September. So that's the really, really tight time frames that we're operating within. So the next couple of days, the team will be full steam ahead.
There's a recommendation back on page 3, councillors, of the report that says that the report from the Chief Executive dated 14 June 2024 concerning the deliberations on matters raised during the long-term plan consultation be received, that the Finance and Performance Committee notes the matters raised through the submissions on the draft long-term plan 2024. By Councillor Wallace, seconded by Councillor Petty-Weber. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. That brings us to the conclusion. It's been a long day, councillors, and a lot of reading and work have gone into it. There's been some robust discussions. We've clearly demonstrated that we've listened to the community, we've made those changes, and I certainly acknowledge the pressure that the team is under on the tight timeframes and thank them very, very much for their work and for their efforts. And I think that, you know, this is not just the Tararoa District Council. These pressures are on all councils throughout the country at the moment. So with that, I'll thank everyone for their commitment to the process and the number of hours that you have taken and discussions that you've had in the community. So thank you. I'll close this with a karakia. Kia tau te rangamaire e, ki runga e ngā iwi o te ao. Let your peace reign on all the people of the world. Kia ora.